Hi everyone, let's paint together today this beautiful 20 centimeters mandala fall dreams. All colors, all autumn in this palette. So let's start it. So colors I will use, you can find in description. No custom colors this time because I got a lot of in my already existing collection. So base also in description, every centimeters circles, and I divided on a half, on a half, on a half, so every 22.5 degrees lines. And we are starting with salted caramel color in the center. And you notice if it's not enough paint on your tool from the beginning, you can come back again with more paint on your tool. And with a thin tool like 1 millimeter or half millimeter or needle tool, you can shape a little bit this central dot or add a little bit, create a form, nice shape of form. And after that, first row of dots we are creating with primary yellow, DecoArt. And as you see, I'm located with such dimensions, it's working well between the lines. And as usual, don't put these dots too close to each other. So leave a little bit space between. It's better to even make it a little bit smaller, and maybe after that came back and add a little bit on the top, the same color, and to make these dots a little bit bigger. And next row we are created with beautiful fresh mango color. Also really nice working with this autumn palette. And we are placing this between previous row dots you see on a video, and in this case it's located on the lines. And the same rules, don't place this too close to each other, but also it's nice when it's located like really close. So you need to find this solution between the lines as usual. And you can add a little bit paint on the top, and this way you're creating like more visually, more visible dots, like more popping out from the surface. In this case we got brown surface, not black, and this kind of working like additional color because it's not black but still pretty dark, and I like it. And yeah, you can add a little bit paint on the top, and this way you will be kind of walking ahead. When it's dry out, these dots will be more visible. The next row we are making with bright orange. So again, located as you see inside of this cycle and between the lines. And again, we are trying to place it as close as we can, but not touching each other. So the trick is, if you're not sure yet, if it's like really too close to you, just wait until the previous dots dry out and place new row. In this case, you will remove if any dots will be too close, for example. And also just remember that this is just example, and if your dots a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, it may work a little bit not the same way, but as example, you see how it's with these sizes tools, it's working perfectly well. And I like how now these colors are working and playing all together. It's beautiful. Really like in autumn. In a forest somewhere. Really nice. And next draw with a 4mm tool and orange flame color. This one even more brighter. And we are placing those on the top of the lines, you see. With tiny 1mm tool, I'm making tiny tails between previous row of dots. And this way you kinda can play. If you got too much space between dots, you can add additional, like this example, tails, for example. You can place a couple of dots and make this tails, like I call it. And don't place all row because you don't need your paint to start out. And as you see, when you already make these tails, you can add a little bit more paint on a dot. And you're walking around like that with all row of dots. So 3-4 dots and make tails. And as I said, if you're not sure yet in your moves, just wait until it's drying out previous paint, and after that you can place next row. You can also use a needle, not only to remove a bubble, but to create these tiny tails between dots. But as you see how now we're using the space, this is one of the tricks to make it really plain all together, like that. And add a little bit more paint on the top. The next row I want to create with cadmium orange, and this time the dots will be a little bit bigger because I wanna 5mm, because I wanna place, when it's dry out, place another color or 3D drops on the top when it's dry out. And as you see, if you want to place a little bit later something on top, or you just don't like the shape, you can literally, when you place a dot, move with thin tool, like play around. Paint will be like nicely located all over the dot. It's one of the tricks how to work with paint when it's a little bit too stick, or you don't like the shape of your dot, it's just not perfect or something like that. So you definitely can use this trick. And moving like that around. To place anything on the top, you need to wait until it's dry out. So for now, we're just leaving it like that. And with the tool, what I'm doing, this central part dot I'm making with this nice fresh mango and 1mm tool. And with 0.5mm tool, I'm walking around like that with primary yellow. And this way I want to add a little bit more like these tones of different colors, exactly what's happening in a forest in the autumn season. So like different trees painted in different colors. So again, this central one I'm doing with fresh mango. You can do actually all of those first. You can relate to make it a little bit bigger if you want to pop out from the surface. And after that, with a thin tool, 0.5mm, I'm walking around with primary yellow. And maybe on the video it's not so visible, but in real painting it's really nice and definitely adding something interesting to your painting. And you see these small tiny dots like really adding like some kind of a charm to the painting. It's like definitely changing the situation. And as I said, if you are tired, just take a rest, because to create these small tiny dots, it's not so easy for our brain to concentrate on this. So if you need to, just get rest and come back later on with these small dots when your brain already ready to proceed with the new details on your painting. Yeah, and look at this, how it is beautiful. It is amazing. With small, really small brush, you see I'm starting small strokes in the middle of this segment. And the color I'm using is bright orange. It's maybe not so bright, but it's definitely orange. And making a small stroke around, and I'm not even going too far. I'm just pressing and leaving like that stroke. So I don't want to even add anything at the end on these small tiny dots that we just created. So I'm literally leaving it like that. And walking around, making the same ornament all over our painting, our mandala. I'm using really small brush, maybe 5mm long. If you don't have one, just choose the smallest that you got, and literally just don't press too much. Just light moves around, and this will let you to create these small strokes. So you literally don't need too many brushes. It's nice to have this, obviously, but you don't need too much. You just need to know how to work with this. Like that. And with the same brush, and the color is new leaf, I make a small like leaves around like that, like a couple of millimeters lower starting. And again, I'm not going too far, I'm just a little bit and leaving like that. So I don't want to mess too much with this tiny dots that we just created. I want to leave it as much as I can, and this way this will like walk and looks so beautiful at the end. So I'm just again walking around, and this color will be a little bit darker when it's dry out, so don't worry, it's not like too bright, but actually all colors so beautifully bright. I like this palette definitely. And with all my love to summer time, these colors in autumn so like fabulous. So 2 millimeters below when we started previous strokes. So we are not started on the same level, a little bit below and around. And you see how green definitely now changing our palette and giving us like a little bit more different perspective, may I say, on the colors. Without green this will be definitely another painting, but you can try, definitely try. So 7 millimeter tool, I'm leaving 2 behind, and on this cross 2 lines up, and I'm making this 7 millimeter dot with cadmium orange again, and with 1 millimeter to 1 millimeter, or maybe just even like needle, I'm making this shape like water drop. You can add a little bit more paint if you wish, and this will definitely add more to your painting. Colors will be brighter, and this will be more pop out from this surface. And again, we're leaving 1 line behind. We are not doing this on the next line. I want to create bigger flowers. In this case, I need more space. So 1 line behind. So we are making like every 45 degrees in this case. And with the same technique, we are moving forward. Again, we are leaving 1 line behind. It's not too visible actually on this video because the base color really bright, but you see now. So we are leaving 1 line behind, between, and moving forward like that. Don't rush. Definitely take your time. Enjoy the process because it's really meditative. Some process of painting, not only the result, as we used to think. You can make it a little bit longer like this one. We will add additional dots around, so this will play around like that. So the same trick we will use. So I want to add the bigger central dot with the same technically color, fresh manga, like that. So inside the cycle, you see, and a couple of millimeters up from these big dots we just created. And with smaller tool, walking around with primary yellow. So technically I'm using the same trick. So this way, this kind of, again, adding a little bit more tones to our fall dreams. Like that. So you can actually, again, make the bigger dots all in a row. And after that, walking around with smaller dots, primary yellow. And next one, I wanna use again the same trick, but with another color. So now I'm using the bigger tools. So I'm using color bright orange to create bigger 2.5 millimeters dots on the top like that. So I'm placing firstly 2 and 1 on the top of this. The same rules, you need to leave space between, but make it as close as you can, like that. So 2.5 millimeter tool and bright orange color. Sorry if you can hear my neighbors around, they're definitely having fun. And after that, with smaller tool, with 2 millimeter tool, I'm walking around with fresh mango. Adding a little bit more notes to our painting. This may be making it a little bit more complicated, but at the same time more interesting for sure. The final results, I mean. And again, you can make these bigger dots. Sorry if you can't see, it's a little bit too close to the edge. But you see, the technique is the same. We are placing 3 bigger dots. And for all this base of our flowers, let's call it this way. And after that, we will walk around with smaller tool. It was bright orange color. And the next we are walking around with 2 millimeter tool and fresh manga, like that. Don't worry, it's not ideal. We will make strokes around, and this will be not noticed. Impossible to notice. Okay, let's move forward and choose small brush, not too big, and the color is salted caramel. So we want to make strokes around these flowers, the bases that we just created. And we are starting, I want to create this like make it there open, not too close, so our strokes will be not too close to each other. And definitely it's not a great part of the video and you don't see it, but you will see how when I moved it. So it's a little bit, maybe 5 millimeters maybe less even, higher than our dot, and around 1 centimeter between strokes on the top, like that. Definitely look at your custom painting, because we are still making everything like custom, because it really depends what tool you use, brush, paint, temperature, even how much you're pressing on your brush. So just look how it works for you, and I'll use my video as example how you can create your own painting. And the next color I want to use I'm using bright orange around like that. I'm starting a couple of millimeters, maybe even 5 millimeters below our previous strokes you see in the video. I'm just moving around, and of this stroke I'm placing even on the top. I don't want to make it too big, so I want our flowers like going between these small green strokes. So at the end I'm almost completely releasing pressure. And for next one I wanna make it with our orange flame color. A little bit biggest brush you can use, and like that, the same way, a couple of millimeters below, and end of the stroke again on the top of each other to make it really thin, and don't place too much pressure or between these green small strokes which we just created. And definitely look between flowers now, so make it as similar as you can, like balance painting. At this point we need to start to do this. And like that. I like how its colors making like more and more brighter, all these tones of autumn. Beautiful. Like that. Beautiful. Look at this. With really thin brush I decided to create these small strokes like that to add this a little bit more details. You can leave it like that if you will, and end of the strokes it's between the previous strokes, as you see. So my brush really thin, and I'm not making like too much pressure, especially at the end. And I'm starting, as you see, on the same level as the salt caramel strokes were created. And with the same brush and fresh mango, I'm making one more stroke around like that. Again, really thin stroke, and I'm not going too far, just the beginning. So the end of the stroke I will cover like that. So I'm releasing pressure and moving around. A little bit bigger brush this time, like good middle size, I may say. And the color is cadmium orange, and I'm starting, as you see, 5 millimeters maybe from the edge, and this way I'm combining all these small strokes that we just created in this one big flower, so they now playing all together. And this cadmium orange definitely adding like a little bit more red color, not like red but orange red, so I definitely like it. And again, I'm watching now distance between flowers also. You can make this by putting more pressure on your brush when you are creating stroke, or the opposite, not putting too much pressure on your brush. Just play with your custom painting, as I said, because you're creating your own, and this is definitely the most amazing part of the art, that we are always creating our own painting. We never, even with tutorials, we are not creating the same. It's just impossible. And finishing like that. Like that. Beautiful. So the same middle size brush and our new leaf color. I'm making 2 strokes. I'm not making this too big at the end. I don't want to mix green with green. So as you see from this line, and going down around a little bit lower than this central part. And you see now when we added a little bit more green, this kind of starting to play all together, because before it was only in one place, only in central part. So now more green, definitely making green playing more. And I like how it's around creating like a new flower, because green color, not the orange one, yeah, and it's kind of popping out from this orange brownish base. So I'm not putting at the end too much pressure. I don't want to mix green with green. And with the same brush, or you can choose maybe a little bit smaller, you using salted caramel color and starting like 5 millimeters below and doing almost the same move, a little bit smaller strokes, but at the end this will again separate our green from green. And we are playing with this space now between flowers. Like that, so beautiful. I like it. So everything dry out. You can add a little bit more paint on the top if you want. And I want to play with this space between dots and add a little bit like 2 green small dots. To again add a little bit more green to our painting, to the central part. And you can use 1 millimeter or even half of millimeter tool. And I just pop in 2 small dots between. You may say it's just not combining, but at the same time, this way we are combining and implementing, introducing our green color in the central part. And I like how these small tiny dots playing with these another tiny dots all together. So it's kind of playing on so many different levels. Like that. It's beautiful and definitely making our painting much more interesting. So let's move forward with our drops. So I'm using this Art Creation warm orange and making one big in the center like that. And on this top of these ones, I'm making this pretty big, not the same size as paint base, but still pretty big. And this interesting color, really nice drops, giving this like nice effect of volume. Also Art Creation Pearl Bronze color, all information, all materials in description. I made in small ones on the top of this row. And this adding these tones, sometimes we are saying this golden leaves, golden autumn. So it's adding definitely more these warmth from these autumn colors. Like that. And I want to add a little bit yellow. So pearl yellow, also Art Creation. I'm making one dot like that, like not too big, not too small. And with a needle, I'm dragging this down and making this nice shape like water drop, like that. And you see how it's definitely immediately brighten up this area. So I didn't plan to add yellow, but there's definitely, I felt it that we needed to add this. Like that. And more details. I'm taking my warm orange and making 2 small dots, a little bit lower. They don't need to touch each other, to not mix it, so be careful. And again with the needle I'm making tails like that. And you see how now this like empty space now working like a new flower, new row of flowers. But really be careful and don't place those too close to each other. Definitely, until it's dry out, this can be easily mixed. So be careful. Like that, look at this, how beautiful it's working all together. So what about this space? We also need to add something. I'm adding our pearl bronze and leaving like just with dot, like drop. I'm not making tails, but you can definitely make it between strokes if you want, like that. I'm leaving it like that. I like it. I do wanna add a little bit another shape without tail this time. So let's add a little bit more details. I wanna add green with this thin, really long brush. I'm coming back to my new leaf color and I'm making like that, just long thin strokes like that. And this way again I'm adding a little bit more green and definitely separating these orange yellow flowers from each other. You can leave it like that or use this trick. Just decide yourself. But this definitely makes sense in a total picture when we are using our green, like additional contrast color in this case. I'm leaving like at the end, just releasing brush, so I'm not making this to the end again, I don't want to combine green colors between each other. So on the central part, I want to add, I thought a lot about that, what I want to add, and I decided to go with pearl bronze. Even yellow was also working, but from my perspective, pearl bronze kind of better. But again, you can use it yourself, make this decision. So I'm again placing dot like that. You can place all of them, and after that with a needle or really thin tool, dragging this material down like that. And it's immediately like more golden, became more golden. Yeah. So more drops. I'm painting this yellow, as you see, a little bit on the top of our green big strokes. Again, you can leave it like that. Definitely still working. I'm just creating, I'm deciding to these ones make tails between the strokes. Again, I'm doing this with a needle. You can use tool and be careful because these bronze dots still fresh, don't mess it's all together. And over there between, I also want to add some details. So between flowers, I'm placing orange, warm orange, art creation. And I want to add small tails over there. Between our green strokes. add only area on top of our flowers left, so let's play with this one. I'm adding drops pearl bronze, just like that. I'm not making tails. I want to make it a little bit more different by playing with different shapes. And after that, I'm making small ones with warm orange on both sides. Again, make it really close but not touching each other. And this orange one, I'm making small tails. Like that, towards the flower. You can definitely add more details if you want, if you feel it, because sometimes we just like creating and going and coming from our inspiration, and this is the best way. But we're definitely almost done. Look at this. Actually, we're done. Congratulations. Look at this beautiful piece of art we created together. Hope you enjoy this process. Hope you enjoy the video, and see you next one. Bye.